All we need is love. This song by the Beatles kept coming to mind as I was preparing for this video on the heart chakra, which is part of my chakra series, to support you in healing and if you've been through trauma and childhood trauma. If you're new to my channel and haven't seen the other ones, it might be worth going back and having a look. There's the root one, the sacral and the solar plexus, because what we're doing is we're building on each one of them. It's not necessary, but you might like to do that. Otherwise, stay with me as we get started. Now, the heart chakra is here, based in our center of our chest. It is represented by the color green, and the secondary color is this beautiful rose quartz, so pink. And I love having my Kuan Yin because she represents all the things around the heart chakra: compassion, forgiveness, empathy, love, acceptance. Because when you actually learn to love yourself, as they say, you got to love yourself first before you can love someone else. That took me a long time to do because loving yourself is very hard. It's very, very difficult. It feels selfish. We don't know how to do that. It's sometimes easier to remain in the knowing and the unhappiness and being victim. But when you can learn to love yourself, what you do is you actually open yourself up to really loving others. Because this chakra is all about having relationships. It's about the social aspect of us. Because the root chakra is physical, and then the sacral chakra is emotional, and then the third one is about autonomy, and this one is about relationships. In this way, what you do is you become aware of others, about giving and receiving, because that's what love is all about. So many of us have been brought up to only give. We give to the point that we burn out. We give so much that we actually get resentful. We don't want to admit it, but we actually don't know how to say no. Because saying yes to ourselves, which is an act of love, means we're letting the other person down. Because we don't want to be rejected, we don't want to be excluded, and we're so used to pleasing, we actually don't know how to be anywhere else. And also there's this sense of you really want to belong. Particularly if you've had a difficult childhood where love wasn't given freely, that you lived in a lot of fear and anxiety and your needs and wants weren't met and you weren't nurtured, love becomes very difficult in your latter part of your life, or as you grow up, I should say. And what happens is then you become either so shut off that you isolate, withdraw and become lonely, or you become clingy and needy and desperate. And what happens is the more you do that, the more you want to cling on to them, the more of course you push the person away. Or you meet someone who supports you in that dynamic and you never ever feel comfortable, you never feel loved, you never feel secure, and you don't know how to be in this world in that way. Now, this relates also to when you're running your own business or in business, because what you're doing in business as well is you're setting up relationships. It's all about relationships. It's about being able to give, receive, negotiate, and communicate, which then is our throat chakra. Now, I know for me, when I was going through my trauma a few years ago and I was running another business, I was so needy. I didn't have boundaries. I was needing them there. I didn't know how to love myself. I didn't know how to separate myself. I didn't know how to negotiate. I didn't know how to say no. So I kept saying yes. And it caused all sorts of issues. But I was so traumatized by the car accident that I'd had. And then from childhood, I didn't know that what it was all about was me actually learning to love myself, to set my own boundaries. And I read a really good book in that time, The Speed of Trust by Stephen Covey, about when you keep giving and putting yourself out there and not setting boundaries, what you're doing, he says, you have a bank account and your bank account goes into the red. So you no longer trust, you no longer know how to rely on yourself. And that's what happened for me, because I'd keep making appointments or wanting to see friends, thinking I'd be able to cope when the time came. I didn't, so I kept letting them down. So what I did in the end was I just stopped phoning anyone, stopped making appointments, because I just didn't feel comfortable with that. I felt ashamed and I felt really embarrassed because I was meant to be strong out there. You know, I was able to go anywhere, to suddenly not being able to do anything like that. I used to forget things. I'd forget that I'd have an appointment. I'd forget because it was a product, a skincare that I'd created, to send things out. So of course that reflects on your business. Now, I had a lot of good people around me to support me, but that didn't take away from that need of feeling shamed and embarrassed. Because then what we do is we criticize and judge ourselves. We're so used to being criticized that's that little thing that goes on, that loop that goes on in our head. We don't know how to separate ourselves to go, actually, that doesn't belong to me. That actually belongs to them. It's no longer appropriate now. And also what happens is, and this is the shadow side, is that we actually criticize others. We blame others, particularly if they've hurt us. We hold on to those grievances. And again, this is where forgiveness comes in. Now, I know I felt this and I've heard it from so many others, but what if you forgive? Are you letting them get away with it? No, what you're doing is you are making them accountable for what they've done, or yourself accountable. That takes you then into a space of responsibility instead of being the victim. Then what you're doing is you're letting it go, you're letting it be. Because what you're doing is then you're unblocking this energy that is stuck here. You're creating this sense of freedom and release for yourself, bringing love in. So then you can look at them with love as a human being rather than that hate and resentment and bitterness. Because when we feel betrayed, we feel hurt. What we do is we actually shut our hearts off. We can become cold, we can become distant, we withdraw. As I said, we don't give, but we also don't know how to receive. And that just creates a real discomfort in our bodies. It blocks our energies. We don't have this beautiful flow. We don't know how to feel safe and how to be able to meet our needs and to feel confident who we are. We remain stuck. We need to work with our grief. We need to actually go into the depths of despair and into the pain. That is where it lies, is in that suffering, as the Buddha said. And I read a really good book by Pema Chodron, When Things Fall Apart. And that's how I learned to do this through my meditation teacher, was insight meditation, how I could sit quietly and be with myself, be with all those uncomfortable feelings of whatever it was, anger, hatred, shame, jealousy, resentment, because all sorts of things came up. But until you really actually experience them and allow them to come up, acknowledge and accept them and actually own them, you can't release. You can't allow love in. You can't allow yourself to just be who you are, loving, kind, because that is the person you are, as is the other person. So it's learning how can you be there to see them as that being as well. Doesn't mean you need to like them, doesn't need to be, you need to be around them, but you have this wonderful sense of release. So powerful. Just take a moment, put your hand on your heart and just look at, where do you love yourself, or are you not loving yourself? What is happening for you at the moment in your life? Because with that hurt and with that pain and that withdrawal, what we actually say to ourselves, and we make it clear to others, that we actually don't need your help. Who's not been told you're so strong and independent, you're hard to give to? I know I've been there, done that. I wanted to be the strong one. I had that big facade going on. And as I mentioned a bit earlier, when I had the car accident, I lost all of that. So I didn't know how to keep that facade up, and I felt so vulnerable. It was very painful. So it's a lot easier just to withdraw and be with myself. And healing doesn't really happen there. I wasn't enjoying life. I wasn't having fun, being spontaneous, being able to go out and receive and give. My life really shut down. So again, take a moment to think about, where have you shut yourself down? Where have you allowed your heart to close off? How can you just allow it to gently open again? Because that's what it's about. Like the Lord is just allowing it to open again, little bit by little bit, allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing love to come in. Your life will really change when that happens, but it does take courage to be able to do that, and vulnerability. So what you do is you hold yourself back. No matter how much you achieve, no matter how successful you are in every sense, meaning of the word, you never feel you're enough. So you keep striving, you keep doing, because it keeps you away, keeps you disconnected from your heart. In fact, it keeps you disconnected from your body, because you just keep going, keep going, keep going. You don't know how to stop and be in flow, be in that lovely, gentle space, that nurturing space where you feel warmth, loved, nurtured, cared for, accepted. So as we come to the end of this video, I'd like you to take a moment, put your hand here in the middle of your chest, or your heart chakra, and just say to yourself, I love and accept myself for who I am. I love and accept others for who they are. I forgive myself, and I forgive the other person. Deep breath in. Thank you for watching. Please leave comments, if any aha moments, any more information you'd like, because in the next video, I'm going to take you into a meditation to really experience this in more depth. Where are you holding you back from love, and how can you open yourself up to love? Share this with anyone you think might benefit from it. Subscribe to my channel, click on the notifications, and I look forward to seeing you next time.